We're on. Let's start. Hello, everyone. This is Ricardo Joyce, and in today's video, I am going to be discussing the worst things that has happened to me in January. I know I promised that video after I made the quota when I was in Durban, but I kind of got exhausted then, and I thought maybe let me prepare the trip from Durban to Cape Town at the time, which was like last week. So the purpose of this video is that I want to explain the worst things that has happened to me in January, and some of the things may have been at fault by me, which I will accept responsibility for. So let's get into it. The first bad thing that has happened to me was when I was taking an Uber from Stellenbosch, where I was staying, up until Paarl, which is Shell, the gas station. The first bad thing that happened to me this January was that one, the Uber driver, he had ditched me after I put my bags and everything inside the vehicle. It was when I was going from Paarl to Umtata for my cousin's funeral. This Uber driver, I won't mention his name, but he was driving a white Toyota Corolla Quest. He made up an excuse after he came to my pickup point that he was going from Stellenbosch to Franschhoek. Franschhoek is another town outside of Stellenbosch. And this made me so angry when he left. I even wanted to curse at him, but I realized that it wasn't going to make a difference if I did. What's worse is that Uber even accepted my request. They even took my money and gave it to this Uber driver. But he just decided to leave me. But it's because I was looking for my wallet at the time. I was doing my last minute packings. But even so, he shouldn't have just said, "Oh, sorry, bro, I have to go to Franschhoek." He shouldn't have said that. He agreed to wait for me. I'll accept fault for that partially, but he is the one I lost my money at the time, and I never got my refund for it. Then I had to call InDrive for a guy to pick me up. You know that with Uber, InDrive, or Bolt, or Maxim, you are generally not allowed to have other passengers in the vehicle besides you and the passenger you are taking to that other destination in the region or even in the same city. So this guy agreed to take me from Stellenbosch to Paarl, but I was expecting for Uber to give me my money back immediately. I told my dad about the situation. I agreed that I would pay him cash. So I just needed to stop at the ATM at my destination. But do you know what that other guy just did to me? Instead of dropping me off at Pal, he thought it was a good idea to drop me off at Klapmunds, which is not far from Pal. I was so disappointed, and I thought to myself, maybe the bus is going to leave me, and I would have lost my money. But I'm not done with that. Then this taxi driver, thank God I saw him. He agreed to take me from Klapmunds to Pal, where this A driver dropped me off. And I had to withdraw 50 Rand because I couldn't withdraw 25 Rand. You know, so with some ATMs, you can't withdraw a 10 Rand and a 20 Rand note nowadays. So I had no choice but to withdraw a 50 Rand note. So this taxi driver agreed to take me to the Shell. And the moment I got to my destination and the bus wasn't around, maybe I thought the bus was late. And the bus was actually late. I was fortunate enough. This taxi driver decided to not pay me my change. Well, he didn't give me back my change. And it literally happened on the first day of the year, 1st of January 2026. This taxi driver decided not to give me my change. I paid him a 50 Rand note, which I was expecting a 25 Rand from him back. That's what's the first worst thing that happened to me. The second worst thing that happened to me, but happened to me indirectly, was when I gained around 2 subscribers, but I lost that same 2 subscribers within a few days. I just realized that the 2 people who subscribed to my channel I was in the same bus with, they decided to unsubscribe. And I knew it was them because they were asking me, oh, can I please subscribe to your channel? You do awesome content. This lady, I'm not going to mention her name because I don't even know her at all. She decided to unsubscribe. That I know. So that's the second worst thing that happened to me. The third worst thing that happened to me this month was my own fault. I'll admit. I messed up academically. That's why I went back to Durban even though classes had started. I kept telling people that I'm taking a sabbatical leave, but in reality, I can't continue with my studies until I rewrite that exam. I could have gone for a remark, but my program manager, I won't mention her name, she said that my marks might go down or up and it might be a waste of money. So I didn't go for the remark. Instead, I just had to register to rewrite the test, which is somewhere in May. So once I discovered this, I had to tell my then landlord and landlady that I had messed up academically, but I still want to stay at the place. I'll get to that part now. So that was another thing that happened to me. the third worst thing that happened to me. Well, the third thing that happened to me this month. The fourth worst thing that happened to me is kind of the same as the first thing that happened to me. Um, it was on the 15th of January 2026. I I was supposed to go to work. I was working for a car rental company for my in-service training that was for 20 days. Um, I had I had to book an Uber. I booked for an Uber, and this Uber driver, he just decided to ditch me the moment I came to him. And I messaged this Uber driver to get back to my destination, well, my pickup point. I messaged him on the Uber app to come and get me from my pickup point. Instead of doing that, he just kept on going. And he just started the trip. You know, with Uber drivers, they'll just start the trip on their phone, getting to their destination. What's worse is that I wasn't even in the car at all. So this Uber driver just took my money and had to request for another cab company, which was Bolt. But this Uber driver, I'm assuming he's Zimbabwean. I don't want to be xenophobic, but this this Uber driver, he just went away. And before I got into my Bolt, Uber had the balls to ask me to give him 5 stars or 4 stars or whatnot, and they asked me if I wanted to tip him, but I wasn't even picked up, and I got so mad, so I just had to call Bolt, and that was about it. I didn't expect this stuff to happen to me in January, but it's part of life. That's one thing I can tell you. Then another thing that happened to me, which was a bad thing, was that I got intel from my landlady. I know she watches my YouTube video, but this one, I will understand why she did it. She wanted me, she thought of giving over my spot to a university student who was actually going to study full time. So I had no choice but to comply and get out of there. And I wanted to beg them, but nothing I could say or do was going to change their mind. And I understand. It's kind of my fault. I really don't want to go back to Durban because I've had bad experience from there, from my childhood to my adolescence, up until I turned 20 to 21 years old. I don't blame my landlady though. Ma'am, if you're watching, please don't hate on me. Um, the reason why I considered it a bad thing was because I wanted to stay in Stellenbosch, and because I still wanted to hang out with my classmates on the weekend where I could. That's why I'm mentioning this as the worst thing that happened to me, because I don't really like Durban, but now I have no choice but to go back to my family. And one last worst thing that happened to me, and this is miscellaneous. You know, in Durban, if you're a black person, and I don't mean to be racist, if you're a black person in Durban, then people will just assume that you speak Zulu because in Durban Zulu is spoken. Yes, my parents speak Zulu, but I'm not used to speaking Zulu and I don't understand it that well sometimes. That's why I prefer to be spoken to in English. And they'll say to me, okay, I can't remember what they would say to me, and I'd ask them to speak English to me. Do you know what they would do? They would have the balls to ask me, "But you're a black person. Why can't you speak Zulu like the rest of the black people?" What they're doing is wrong. They do not have the right to judge. At least here in Cape Town, they're much more understanding. I'm sick of these tribalist people. That is why I didn't want to come back to Durban in the first place. So these are the worst things that have happened to me this January. Anyways, guys, thank you for listening to my story time as to the worst things that have happened to me in January. Um, I'm sorry if I've offended anyone. I don't mean to offend those who I may have wronged in this video by saying what I had to say, but it's the worst things that have happened to me. It's for the purpose of this video. Please like, share, and subscribe to Ricardo Joyce. I will understand not getting monetized for this video because of some of the things I've mentioned. And to my former landlady, if you're watching this, this is nothing personal. It's just that you know my reasons why I said what I had to say, although you're not at fault at all. I understand. So thank you guys for watching. You don't have to subscribe if you don't want to, but at least try to understand where I'm coming from. If you want to give me negative comments, I will try to respond to them, and I'll understand why I get negative comments. And I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye for now.